We are live. We are live. Welcome to College Football's Peek Around the Corner with your host, Greg Pflugar. We cover everything in college football because we love everything in college football. And if you do as well, please subscribe to our channel. Smash that like button if you like our content. Share the video with your family and friends if you want to support this rebel outpost of all college football with a donation. Hit the $ where you make a comment, and I'll get to your super chat as quick as I possibly can. Welcome everybody into the studio that sits on the corner, the very corner of Keith Jackson Parkway and Kurt Gowdy Avenue. Do not be afraid. Do not be afraid to be a legend with your comments and with your phone calls later in the show Wednesday, April 2nd. We are 5 days away. 5 days away from Judge Wilkins and possibly, maybe, probably going to finish off this settlement deal between House versus NCAA in the college football world, not just Kirby Smart. Not just the head coach of Georgia Bulldogs. He's not the only one who's on pins and needles. The whole college football world. We're going to be going through not the entire article, but an article written by ESPN, Wetzel, and all those guys. Look, it's a great article. I'm not going to spend the whole time going through the whole thing, but it hits the points that I want to make today on this Wednesday, April 2nd show. We were talking about it 2 weeks ago. We talked about it last week here at PATC. We cover everything in college football. We're giving you the best peek around the corner. I'm telling you, Deloitte. I don't know if you remember, I don't know if you're old enough to remember, but back in, what was it? 2000? The 2000 election between Bush and Gore. What was the guy's name? Forget. On NBC. Meet the Press. Who was the host of Meet the Press? Who was a big Buffalo Bills fan and died of a sudden heart attack. Tim Russert. Thank you. Yeah, Tim Russert. 2000 election, he put up on the whiteboard, it's all about Florida. Here at Peek Around the Corner, we believe a large part of whatever happens here on April 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th, whatever, Deloitte. I think everybody is thinking about Deloitte, the clearinghouse. Now, there is going to be some other arm that is going to be created. We don't have a name for it yet. There's going to be an enforcement arm. Maybe I should be ahead of it. Maybe the fat guy in Minnesota should be ahead of the enforcement arm. We don't have a lot of information on what that's going to look like. Who's going to be in charge of it? How big is the staff? What type of powers are they going to have? We're going to go over a little bit of that in the article that was out today, ESPN. Deloitte, enforcement arm, looking over the rev cap. Deloitte trying to figure out market value of an name, image, and likeness deal. And we've had a lot of great conversations over the last couple of weeks. Like, does it depend on where the player is playing? What city? Does it depend on what team he's playing for? Does that alter the value of the deal? Could you have the exact same deal with the exact same business doing the exact same thing, but if you're in Texas versus if you are in Connecticut, are the values different? If you're playing for the Longhorns instead of the Yukon Huskies, when it comes to football, being a left tackle, having your name plastered on some car washing business, is your value the same? You're doing the same thing for the same company, but because you're in Austin, Texas, is that more valuable than being up in Connecticut? Well, it seems, according to the article we're going to go through today, nobody has that answer either. In other words, when I keep saying in front of this microphone, into this microphone, that I do not know what the hell is going on, I don't know how the Deloitte thing is going to be handled. I do not know how the enforcement thing is going to be handled. When I keep saying, here, college football peak around the corner, when I'm supposed to be providing you the peak, and I keep saying, I don't know what the hell's going on. I have no idea what's going to happen. It sounds like I'm not the only moron out there who doesn't know what's going to happen. It sounds like the head coaches don't know. Nobody knows. Nobody knows the trouble I've seen. Nobody. It's why 5 days, in 5 days, look, the whole college football world is on pins and needles. And we're not going to get all the we're not going to get all the answers on April 7th. Of course not. No way. We might get some. We might be getting some tea leaves on the governance of it all. But we're really not going to know. We're really not going to know until hopefully at least sometime before July 1st, because whatever happens on April 7th, everything gets kicked in on July 1st, unless it gets delayed, which I pray it doesn't. For good or for bad, Judge Wilkins and what goes on April 7th is going to be very important for the next transformation of college athletics. But I think the most impactful, the most coming off of that, the most impactful situation, action in the next transformation of college football is Deloitte, and the enforcement arm. Now, I know a lot of you are saying, well, Greg, the bag man is coming. People are going to cheat anyways. It doesn't even matter what is said. It doesn't even matter what type of things, what organizations you built, what guardrails you put. It doesn't matter, Greg. It's all going to get blown up. It's all going to get blown up either by the bag man, by future court decisions, or both. And you're probably right. You are probably correct. But here at College Football Peak Around the Corner, we got to deal with what is happening now. Not just about the peak around the corner, but we got to be talking about what is going on now. And I fear, my biggest fear, since we're talking about the college football world being on pins and needles, my biggest fear, and it is a growing fear. I've always had it, but it is growing. The very first episode I ever did, I talked about the need for collective bargaining. Representatives between labor and ownership. In this case, the student athletes and the universities and or conferences. But my growing fear is even if we get to collective bargaining, and I hope we do, but we're not going to get there anytime soon. So I got to deal with the reality of the world the way it is today. I can't just be dreaming about what I want it to be. We got to deal with what is going on today. But even if we get to a collective bargaining agreement, are people still going to just, are schools and decision makers, and are people still going to cheat? I get a little bit depressed thinking about it because cheating seems to be so ingrained into college sports. Now, a lot of people would say, well, Greg, look, labor has been treated unkindly over the last 5, 6, 7 decades. I agree. But then again, and I agree, but then again, there are some many institutions that try to walk the narrow line, that try to walk in between the guardrails, that try to follow the rules of today, and others say, forget about it. And that bothers the hell out of me. Even if we get to a collective bargaining agreement, are there going to be still those out there looking to cheat at any time, at any moment? I'm off my soapbox. We're also going to be talking about Sunday night football. College football on Sunday night. Could it be? Maybe. Let's get to it. Let's do a roll call. I appreciate everybody coming on in on a lazy Wednesday. Look, there's a lot of storms out there. We at PATC are praying for your safety. Everybody in the PATC family and your loved ones. There's a lot of rain going on. There's a lot of tornadoes going on. There's snow going on here in Minnesota, but it ain't dangerous. But what you guys down further south, southeast, in the mid-Atlantic, everywhere south of us seems to be getting hit hard. Praying for everybody's safety. Please stay safe and take care of one another. So I appreciate you all joining us. Hopefully, I provide you some entertainment, some information, and we'll get through this together. Dan is in the house. Thank you for coming on in, Dan. Jeff Keiss, Jimmy, the Cornhuskers, Skaven, yes, Kill Ball, A-Mac, David Kreitzer, Destry Sparks, all good 720. The Buckeye, Caleb Ramirez. Preston from Greensboro, North Carolina. Why would college football go against the NFL? Maybe it will just be one or two particular Sundays in the calendar. We'll take a look at it. Daniel Gygax is in the house. Go Big Red Dogs and Dubs. S. Farmer, check it out. P. Lit, the Evil Badger. Ryan Willie, King's Gambit. King's Gambit is in the house. Bo Weevil, Mr. Clemson, Tiger, Utes, Steel Austin, Greg the Gold is live. Yes. Finally, somebody has it figured out. Steel Austin is the only one who's got it figured out. 2025 is the year of Greg the Gold. Don't worry about my winning percentage against the spread in 24, in 23, in 22. 3-year losing streak doesn't go to 4. It can't. It's mathematically impossible. Greg the Gold is here. Hokie Hive, John Boxleitner, thanks for coming on in. Charlie Atwood, Bob Swanger, we got a couple of Nittany Lions right in a row. Roman Maroney. Cope is in the house. Dr. Al Smith, go Gophers. Go Green. Larry, the GM, we are live. Steve is in the house. Stephen McNeely. Okay. Let's get to it. First of all, the crazy idea, out of the box thinking, football scheduling solutions for Oregon State and the Pac-12. John Wilner, the Pac-12 Commissioner Teresa Gould, has used the phrase blank state to describe her strategic approach to the next era, particularly with regard to the rebuilt conference pending media rights package. We still don't know what that media rights package is going to look like. With whom, how much, for how long? Because it has 6 new schools and no existing media deal, the Pac-12 can follow a proven path, a clear new terrain, or find a middle ground for a contract cycle that will begin in the summer of 26. Multiple industry sources have indicated the Pac-12's likely valuation range is $7 million per school at the lowest end, $12 million per school if everything breaks just right with the number of bids, a bidding war, and the structure of the deal. The structure of the deal depends in part on the football schedule. For linear TV networks, dollars offered and flexibility obtained move in lockstep. Whether it's ESPN, Fox, the CW, or Turner, TBS, TNT, they likely pay more if given freedom to create quality matchups in optimal broadcast windows. The Pac-12 discovered that relationship 15 years ago when then the commissioner Larry Scott, under orders from university presidents, traded away full control of the kickoff times to ESPN and Fox in exchange for additional revenue. That strategy led to a heavy load of night games in 6-day kickoff selections, which combined to create years of angst and frustration across the country. But the dynamics are different this time. This time in the Pac-12, the dynamics are different. The 7 football playing schools committed to the Pac-12, started in 26, have embraced a startup mentality. If so inclined, they could schedule games on Tuesdays, or have teams play twice like the NFL does with intra-division opponents, or set kickoffs for 9 a.m. on the West Coast, or play conference games at neutral sites. Whatever it takes to limit travel costs, whatever it takes to boost the maximum media value that you can squeeze out of your enterprise, whatever it takes to give your network, your media partners the best bandwidth, the best opportunity to win those, to have those nights alone in your schedule. The hotline has written frequently about football scheduling strategy in the past. Many of the concepts are as visible for the rebuilt conference as they were for the Pac-12 6 or 8 years ago. 4 come to mind. Labor Day weekend. Excuse me. The Sunday and Monday of Labor Day weekend are there for the taking with no NFL, but college football has been slow to occupy the space. Just 2 games are scheduled for August 31 next season. South Carolina, Virginia Tech, and Notre Dame in Miami. And there's only one lined up for Labor Day itself, TCU in North Carolina. So again, Labor Day weekend, Sunday and Monday, a lot of it is there for the taking if the Pac-12 wants to grab in on it. Projecting out to 2026 and beyond, the Pac-12 would have numerous broadcast windows available for non-conference games. Or it could take a bold approach and slot high-level conference matchups. Think Washington State and Boise State in the open real estate. Can you imagine? Can you imagine a Labor Day conference game? Think about it. Washington State and Boise State to kick off the season. That's like NASCAR kicking off their season. Daytona 500. Friday nights. The slot once reserved for the Pac-12 has gained popularity with the networks and will be crowded next season. The ACC recently announced 12 Friday games, 12 of them. The Big 12 revealed plans for 10, and the Big 10 could play 9 or 10 based on its 24 schedule. All 30-something will be shown by Fox and the ESPN networks. But most will start around 5 or 6 in order to maximize the prime time window on the East Coast. If we assume John Wilner, Mercury News, if we assume that broadcast plan remains in place for 26, there could be room for a doubleheader. A doubleheader with the Pac-12 providing the nightcap at 7:30 or 8. It would be the Friday equivalent of Pac-12 After Dark broadcast. A Friday night Pac-12 After Dark broadcast. That was the staple, the Saturday staple for years. And it would offer a terrific vehicle for the network to promote its lineup of Saturday games. So you're having that Pac-12 After Dark, the second of a doubleheader on Fox or whatever network, ESPN. And during that After Dark broadcast, you're advertising the slate of your Pac-12 Saturday games. Thanksgiving Eve. Now, I'm going to say this, and we reported this the very first time on that September 9th live show where we talked about the Big Ten going for 4 automatic qualifiers. That live show was stacked with information. We also reported that we believed, and then we continued talking about it, that in 2026, the Big 12 is going to have a conference football game and the last week of the season on Thanksgiving Eve. Now, there has not been I don't believe there's been an announcement of it. I don't think it's happened yet. If it doesn't happen in 2026, we will take the L here at Peek Around the Corner. But we got reasons to believe, as we did late last year, we still do today, that the Big 12 is going to put a game on Thanksgiving Eve. And John Wilner is saying, well, the Pac-12 should be looking at that as well. The hotline has long viewed the Wednesday of Thanksgiving week as the greatest untapped terrain available for the major conferences and their media partners, with an audience desperate for football and nothing available. It could be the right opportunity for somebody in a way to separate themselves from the other conferences. Dave Brown, a former ESPN executive and creator of Gridiron, a popular scheduling service, told the hotline last fall, preparation time is the greatest obstacle. Players need at least 4 days between games, meaning the participating teams would need to play the previous Thursday or Friday or have a bye, which disrupts the 2 weeks of competition, or they would need a bye the Saturday before the game. In our view, the payoff in dollars and eyeballs would be worth the effort. Sunday evenings. Sunday night football. I would love it. I would be doing a watch party. And a lot of those Sunday nights here at Peek Around the Corner, the hotline's most radical idea might prove too aggressive for the Pac-12, but it's worth considering a few kickoffs. Not every week, not even half of them, but a few of them each season on Sunday, 7:30 p.m. The first quarter would overlap with the final 45 minutes of Sunday night football. So a selective approach by the Pac-12 and its media partners would be required. Avoid Sunday night at all costs if the Chiefs are playing the Cowboys, but take your shot if the Colts are facing the Vikings. Wait. Mercury News, John Wilner is taking a shot at my Minnesota Vikings? Holy smokes. Fox could promote the game during its afternoon NFL broadcast and use it to pump up the Big Ten or the Big 12's game scheduled for the following Friday. And finally, in the article, we know at least one subsect of football audience The gamblers would love having Pac-12 game on Sunday night. Put down your comments and thoughts. Interesting article, John Wilner, Mercury News. Interesting comment. A lot of ideas there. Now, the Thanksgiving Eve, that's going to be gobbled up. And I believe the Big 12 is going to be one player in gobbling up that Wednesday Thanksgiving evening slot. Who else is going to participate? Maybe the Pac-12. But they've got a clean slate, right? They've got Teresa Gould, the new leader. Oregon State and Washington State having a big voice. Look, they're gonna have to be a little bit. They're gonna have to do things a little differently to get the exposure in the Pac-12. They're gonna have to do things a little bit differently. They can't play cautiously. They've got to gamble on the schedule. And I think they will. And I think that's great for the college football fans. Heck, the bigger, wider bandwidth of college football content for us college football sickos, the better off we all are. And I'm looking forward to seeing what the Pac-12 actually does. But I do believe, now, we've seen the ACC, the Big 10, and the Big 12 gobble up a lot of those Friday night slots. The Big 10 has been very, very aggressive. And I believe that the Big 12 is going to also be aggressive. I think you're going to be seeing them fill out some non-traditional calendar dates for college football starting in 26. I think some people are going to be a little surprised, but I don't think the PATC family is going to be surprised. Okay. Wilner disparaging the Minnesota Vikings. Wow. Unbelievable. Ryan Willie. Sports is really messed up. College football on Sunday night, they have lost their minds. 3 NFL games on Christmas. The world has gone mad. Thank you for the super chat, Ryan Willie. I appreciate the comment. I appreciate the super chat. You know what, though? I have gone mad. I love the idea. I know a lot of you probably wouldn't like the idea of a Sunday night football game, college football game, 2, 3, 4 times a year. We already get it once a year at the beginning of the season. But I would love to have it 3 or 4 times a year. And I hope that if we do have it, I'm going to be doing our watch parties. If you're new to the channel, we do more watch parties than any other college football YouTube channel out there, and it's not even close. We do a lot of them every single week, and we're doing Friday nights, we're doing Thursday, we're doing Saturday. If there is a Sunday opportunity, if there is a Sunday night opportunity, we're going to do it here in the future at Peek Around the Corner. Why? Because we are sickos. Why? Because we have gone mad. We are mad. We are crazy. We are absolutely crazy here at PATC. But I understand the sentiment that Ryan Willie's talking about here. The live sports content is king. It's what the national advertisers love. Their products and services, their advertising is way more effective during live sports. You're not quickly going through the commercials. You're watching it live. You're not taping a TV show and watching it later. So that is why more and more of our nights and our days, we have more options in watching live sport content. Because that is where the advertising is most effective. But Ryan Willie, I think a lot of people agree with you. Once again, I appreciate your incredible generosity to our channel. Thank you so very much. Cranky Tiger loved the first week last year. We had games Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday. It was beautiful. Thanksgiving Eve could be a gold mine. Yes. Bimba 757-9 Wednesday before Thanksgiving should have multiple games. I just don't want a home game on any day but Saturday. Well, that's why you've got the Minnesota Gophers. That's why you've got programs like Minnesota. You want us on a Thursday night? First of all, Minnesota always starts the season on a Thursday night at home for the Big Ten. You want us on a Friday? Yeah, we've had Friday games. That's why you need certain type of programs in your big old conferences. So we'll take up those Thursday and Friday and let you big behemoths have your Saturday, have your recruiting Saturday. It doesn't hurt Minnesota not to have home game. Well, it does a little bit. It does. But not as much as it affects the big behemoths. So we'll take over the Thursday and Friday games. Okay, let's get to college football world is on pins and needles. Sifting legitimate NIL deals from the darker world of pay-to-play. Dan Wetzel, Pete Thamel, ESPN. But before we get into that, I just want to hold on here. I just want to take a look at what Kirby Smart said. And again, I'm not going after Kirby, a lot of people are going after what Kirby Smart said here. I'm not going to do that. I'll let other people do it. I probably agree with them. But I just want to bring up the fact that everybody is holding their breaths on what this is going to look like from April 7th to July 1st. What is this all going to build towards to? The whole college football world is sitting on pins and needles. The Score, Georgia head coach Kirby Smart is among many figures who are anxiously awaiting the final approval hearing in the House v. NCAA settlement case that will change the landscape of collegiate sports. Everybody's on pins and needles because we don't know exactly what's going to come out of this. Smart said Tuesday, according to the Atlanta Journal-Constitution's Connor Riley. Judge Claudia Wilkin will hear any objections to a possible $2.8 billion settlement that would be paid out to college athletes. If approved, the resolution could lead to revenue sharing, roster limits, and all that stuff we've been talking about. I mean, it could be one of the most legendary moments in all of college sports with what's coming up with this ruling and how people are going to try to manipulate a cap when we're all trying to do is make for competitive balance. Smart said, and it's really unfortunate that I don't know if competitive balance is going to come out of it. Well, and I'm not going to go through the rest of it, but I just wanted to put that out there because the whole college football world is like, what is this going to look like? What exactly is Deloitte and how are they going to judge NIL deals, fair market value? The enforcement arm, what is that going to look like? Let's get into Dan Wetzel's and Pete Thamel's article. We do not go through the whole thing. Sifting legitimate NIL deals from the darker world of pay-to-play. In other words, what is the difference between a legitimate NIL deal and a pay-to-play deal? What's the difference? Is it going to be hard to tell? This is what Deloitte has got to figure out. And is there any really illegitimate NIL deal? Aren't you worth what somebody is willing to pay you? From 2001 to 2009, University of Miami booster Nevin Shapiro took a blowtorch to the NCAA rulebook. He picked up the bill for players at exclusive South Beach nightclubs. He hosted wild parties. He placed bounties to knock opposing players out of the game, offered cash gifts to athletes. Shapiro recalled that he never paid a player to come to Miami, but he often joked he was the program's chief recruiter because of the lifestyle he was able to show was possible if they became a hurricane. Bottles, booze, cars, flights, hotel rooms, sex workers, providing anything of value was the NCAA violation at the time. He estimates he spent $4 million. $4 million. It's a lot of money. And Miami did not win an ACC championship during that time. So I wonder if Shapiro thinks he got worth his money, $4 million. Holy smokes. But those were the days when the NCAA cultivated an image of enforcing amateurism. With college sports rapidly being professionalized, the NCAA is essentially getting out of the policing of financial deals. In its place is a new entity, conceived and operated by the power conferences to monitor and enforce so-called extra benefits in the current era of NIL deals and the direct revenue sharing. Count Shapiro among a chorus of skeptics to the new approach of paying athletes for the NIL rights while outsourcing monitoring and enforcement to others. I think it's a flawed system before it gets started. St. John's basketball coach Rick Pitino said, totally flawed. I think the enforcement will be very hard, Kansas basketball coach Bill Self said. We have zero trust, Purdue basketball coach Matt Painter said. This is not the way to regulate this, Shapiro said. I applaud them for giving an effort, I guess, but this is not practical. There's 1 million ways to circumvent it. Starting this summer, schools will be allowed to pay players directly as part of an industry-shifting antitrust settlement of 3 federal lawsuits collectively known as the House Settlement. The deal, which still needs to receive final approval from a federal judge April 7th, would set a limit of how much each school could give to its athletes on an annual basis, starting at roughly $20.5 million next year. To help keep wealthier teams from using boosters or NIL collectives to gain an advantage by exceeding the cap, the NCAA's power conferences are creating a clearinghouse separate from the NCAA to approve future NIL deals between players and boosters. The House settlement states that the athletes have to report any NIL deal. Now again, we talked about it a couple weeks ago. It doesn't matter if it's in-house collective or the collective that is outside of your athletic department. They've got to submit your NIL deal to the clearinghouse. The House settlement states that athletes have to report any NIL deal that they sign with a third party that is worth more than $600 and that any such deal has to be for, quote, valid business purposes, unquote. Acceptable deals deemed real NIL can range from a national advertising campaign for, say, USC's women's basketball superstar Juju Watkins to a 3-figure appearance fee at a local car dealer for a lesser-known athlete. The power conferences have contracted with auditing giant Deloitte to review booster NIL deals and decide whether each is a legitimate endorsement contract or a veiled attempt to circumvent the salary cap. Deloitte plans to use data. Get this now. We don't learn much here. We do not learn much here, but this is PATC money shot number 1 of the article. Deloitte plans to use data from past endorsement deals signed by college and professional athletes, along with other information to pinpoint whether each deal exceeds an athlete's fair market value. Wow. The power conferences are also creating a new organization. Get this, PATC money shot number 2 of the article. Listen up. Buckle up, brace for impact. The power conferences are also creating a new organization tasked to enforce the salary cap and fair market value rules. This new entity will separate from the NCAA's enforcement arm. This new entity will be separate from the NCAA's enforcement arm. This is not the NCAA. This is the power conferences. Big 12, ACC, SEC, Big 10. They are building, creating the enforcement arm. Several of the college sports leaders involved in creating the new entity say it's an attempt to fully reset the crime and punishment process of college sports that has been long criticized for its lack of efficiency, transparency, and equal treatment among the offenders. It could be in place as soon as July 1st. It better be in place by July 1st. It better be in place by July 1st. A group of 10 Power Conference athletic directors have been meeting regularly during the past 6 months to design the new organization, but have not publicly shared any details. They have not shared publicly any details about the kinds of punishments a school or its athletes might face if they break the rules, or how they intend to solve the same problems that roiled the NCAA's enforcement team. A lot of big unknowns. A lot of big unknowns. The settlement will give them some new tools, most notably a binding arbitration process that could speed up resolutions. That needs to happen. These resolutions, the enforcement, the punishment, the appeal process, all that has to be sped up. That could speed up the resolutions, provide the new enforcement group with greater power to compel coaches and schools to turn over evidence and make it more difficult to challenge punishments in court. Within college athletics, there is hope that the appetite for change is great enough to try something new. We've arrived at a sort of a tipping point for the enterprise as a whole, Purdue Athletic Director Mike Bobinski said. We're either going to suck it up and just take a little medicine and get it right for the long haul, or God knows where we're going here over the next however many years, and none of that would be good. None of that would be good. I think we have one shot to try to get this thing. And so we've got to do it. We've got to do it. Many in college athletics have sought to impose new rules as the process of procuring players from focuses more on the increasing amount of money thrown in NIL deals. However, finding rules that are both effective and capable of standing up to the inevitable legal challenges is arduous at best. Start with the fact that no system has ever prevented cheating. Payments to players that violate NCAA rules have existed for generations. Miami was only punished for Shapiro's violations after he cooperated with them following a federal indictment for security frauds. There was a glimmer of hope among some in 2017 when the FBI arrested 10 men when it alleged the federal corruption laws were broken in concert with violation of the NCAA rules. The FBI's William Sweeney boldly promised more to come as prosecution proceeded. Nothing happened. Nothing happened. What we went through the last 7 years, hey, we have your game plan, we know what you're doing, then to end up where we did, that was embarrassing, Painter said. To me, that was really embarrassing. The architect of this new system believed coaches and administrators around the country are so fed up with the past few years of relative lawlessness, the wild, wild west, that they will accept the enforcement group's authority rather than run to the nearest attorney general's office to challenge any investigative action as soon as their school gets popped for a rules violation. That theory won't really be tested until coaches who claim to want strict rules are staring down the barrel of a postseason ban, a hefty fine, or losing a star player. Then there is the challenge of figuring out whether a player is being paid the proper amount for a deal. A deal that might seem too generous to say Caitlin Clark, the great basketball player, Iowa Hawkeyes. Caitlin Clark, before her junior season at Iowa, might actually turn out to be a bargain. The deal that many people thought maybe be too generous is probably really a bargain. Or as the old axiom goes, something is worth what somebody is willing to pay for it. I actually think in theory it's good, Self said, Kansas coach of the new system, but it's hard to imagine how someone can define fair market value, because to me, the fair market value is what a company or an organization sees that individual worth as. Others worry about how Deloitte will factor the market surrounding the school where an NIL contract is made. And this is where Lear, the GM, and others have asked the great questions. And nobody knows the answer. That's why one of the big reasons why everybody in the college football world is on pins and needles. 5 days away from April 7th. And we're not going to get the real answers on Deloitte until we get into this starting July 1st. Others worry about how Deloitte will factor the market surrounding the school where an NIL contract is made. Is an Ohio State Buckeye quarterback automatically more valuable than a Bowling Green quarterback for a similar deal? How about a USC point guard living in Los Angeles compared to an Iowa State point guard in Ames, Iowa? If so, by how much? How much is location going to play a part of the evaluation of Deloitte when it comes to a fair market value of an NIL deal? That is a monster of a question. I'm just curious how they're going to identify market value, said Dan Hauser, the athletic director at mid-major High Point University, located in North Carolina. Are they going to be able to say market value for one of your HPU athletes is at a lower or different level than the market value is somewhere else? There's more to this article. More to the article, but I skipped over a lot of it. I wanted to, what I believe is the important part. But I want to get to the last two paragraphs of the article. Well, I'll read the top part first. There remains the question. The NCAA will no longer be in the business of extra benefit enforcement, But can a new entity be any better at enforcing the rules, especially against an ingrained culture of cheating? Here's the part that I really wanted to get to here. This is the part that I really wanted to hit. Hold on one second here. It's the curse of this business, says Purdue's Babinski, the athletic director. It's the curse of this business. Who remains optimistic that something can be worked out. I've been in it for 40 years. A rule gets made and people don't say, that's what we'll have to do. I've been in it for 40 years and a rule gets made and people don't say, that's what we'll have to do. The first thing they say is, how do we get around it? How do we bend it to our purposes for our objectives? That has to change. The new rules are coming, so too perhaps the old ways of breaking them. I hope not. I hope not. I hope, look, I'm sounding very naive right now, okay? I'm going to sound like a complete idiot. But I hope whoever breaks the rules first, whatever school breaks the rule first, or whatever collective breaks the rules first, whatever head coach breaks the rules first, what other institution breaks the rules first, until this gets defeated in court, or until we get the next, the dream that I have with collective bargaining, take your punishment. Take your punishment. There are rules that everyone agreed to. The Power Four conferences, and look, I'm going to get yelled at by all of you. The Power Four conferences have created, we don't know what the name of it is yet. We don't know. we don't know anything about this enforcement arm. Other than athletic directors from the 10 conferences have been meeting for months. They are creating this. They're putting the rules in place. You know, even the biggest, largest, most valuable athletic departments, the richest athletic departments, they don't want a wild, wild west. They don't want it. They all want a certainty on labor costs. You know how you get a certainty on labor costs? You do a collective bargaining agreement. That's how you get certainty. But they're not going to do that yet. So here we are. They're building something, and I'm being naive and stupid, but I'm hoping that people out there take their punishment when they break the rules, because or else we're going to go right back into chaos. And I know a lot of you want more chaos. So nobody fears a punishment that never comes. Follow through with the punishment and you'll get better results. Bimba7579, why does NIL need to be limited in the first place? Let players earn, although I'm in favor of CBA for direct play rules. Here is the, before we get to your phone calls, even though I'm in favor of collective bargaining agreement, I do understand, and I'm gonna narrow it to college football. I do understand why the college football leaders want to put guardrails around NIL. And let me go down this pathway. People believe, and I'm one of those people that believe this, even if you get a collective bargaining agreement, but especially if you don't have one, A contract with your left tackle in college is never going to be the same as your contract with your left tackle on the Buffalo Bills. When that left tackle signs a contract with the Buffalo Bills, and let's say it's for 3 years, he's with the Buffalo Bills for 3 years, unless he gets traded. Like, that player can't just walk on to the Green Bay Packers practice field. In college, there's a lot of people believe we're never going to get there. Even under a collective bargaining, you cannot stop a student athlete from walking out of a school and decide to go to another school. So, what is happening in professional, when you're an NFL player, you get a name, image, and likeness deal. Not all the deals, not your local air conditioning deal that you have, or your plumbing, where you're the face of some local business. But a lot of the big NIL deals, they're not attached to exactly what team you're playing for. Right? You do not have, like, if you're Justin Jefferson, you got big deals out there, and they remain if you get traded from the Minnesota Vikings to the Carolina Panthers. But in college, it's different, right? Your NIL deal is basically a deal that, are you playing for the USC? You got to play for the USC Trojans to get this NIL deal. So even the name, image, and likeness deals, with most of them, not all of them, but most of them, it's different with college than it is professional. So, because of that and other reasons, I'm for a collective bargaining agreement. I want representation for labor and for the owners to hash it out. Then you can renegotiate 5 years from now, hash it out, be flexible. Go with the change in times, whatever different economic times that are happening. But whatever we get, it isn't quite going to be what the professionals have. It isn't quite going to be the same. So the players are going to be benefiting. The college sports athletes are going to be benefiting in ways that the professional athletes will not have. They're not going to be drafted. They're going to be able to select where they go. Things of that nature. But then I think there's going to be a trade where there's going to be things that the professional players have that maybe the college players don't have. At some point. But anyways, that's my thoughts on it. That's why I think there's a motivation to limit to NIL, because it's more tied to where you are playing, like pay to play, basically. Why it's not pay to play in the NFL. When a professional player does a name, image, and likeness deal, the business is looking to benefit from that deal, because that player is contracted to a team. So the NIL is just business related. Return of investment, ROI. But these college deals are not that. They're not based upon the business. They're based upon pay to play. So again, it's no matter how much you want to professionalize college athletics, it's not going to be able to go all the way to professional sports. So in some ways, the guardrails on some things might be a little bit tighter. And I would approve of that. Because in some ways, the guardrails are going to be wider with the college athletics. Like, You're not going to get drafted. You're really not going to be able to keep you to a contract. There's going to be buyouts in these contracts, but you can't force a college player to stay at a school that he doesn't want to go to. In my opinion, let's get to your phone calls here. Phone lines are open, 763-260-1333, 763-260-1333, no question about it. We are 5 days away from April 7th. April 7th, well, it's not about ignoring Larry the GM. Greg, this is what I tried to communicate when I called. The conferences are going to ignore the NCAA. They will decide what works for them. Quite possibly. But the problem with that is, this is not about the NCAA. Deloitte is not NCAA. The enforcement arm is not NCAA. The enforcement arm that is being built by Texas, Alabama, Tennessee. It's being built by Alabama. It's being built by Ohio State, Michigan. These things are being built by the conferences. The one part I love about all this is this red herring, the NCAA. You're not going to be able to blame anything on the NCAA anymore. Not that you really could anyways, because the NCAA was created by your university presidents. But this is separate from the NCAA. How Deloitte handles their business, that was created by these conferences. And the SEC, they're the ones who want a tight reading of pay to play. They don't want it loose. Larry the GM, Sankey wants the structure, but have the SEC police itself. Well, first of all, I haven't heard Sankey say that, number one. Number two, then the SEC, if they're going to want to only police themselves, then they're probably going to have to separate themselves from everybody. I mean, you can't do that unless you separate yourself from the rest of the college football world, which they might do. They're not going to do it for the next 4 or 5 years. You can't have a conference completely police themselves and then expect to play another conference. Jay Chapman is in the house. Sankey wants the new regime. I don't know what that means either. Look, guys, the SEC is the ones they're building this, guys. They're building this. They're leading. Remember, Sankey and Petit, they're leading the way, right? And they're great leaders, right? That's what I keep hearing. Morris Simmons is in the house. The more I hear about this clearinghouse, the more likely it seems that destined to fail. Well, we don't know a lot, do we? We don't know anything. That's why everybody's on pins and needles. It's not just Kirby Smart. We don't know, and I've said this for weeks, we don't know how Deloitte is going to handle these submissions. Are they going to make a big difference between where you are submitting the deal, what market you are, what team you're from? We know nothing. We know absolutely nothing except they have been given the power. Deloitte Clearinghouse has been given the power. And then the enforcement arm, we know even less. We don't know, there's no name to it. We know that leaders of 10 conferences have been meeting for months. It better be running by July 1st. You've got a rev. You've got a rev share. You got a cap. We know the form. We sort of know the formula on how that is built. We know that is going to creep upwards. and the scholarship and the roster limits. There's certain things we know. But man, there's a whole lot we don't know. That's why everybody's on pins and needles. That's why the show today is called College Football World on Pins and Needles.
Call from.
Go ahead. Who is this? Ryan Willie?
The Evil Badger.
Evil Badger. Go ahead, sir.
Yes.
Thanks for calling.
Hey, Greg. Well, the scheduling going from Thursday night to Wednesday night to Friday night to Saturday, even Sunday, is one of the reasons why I decided to not renew my season tickets. And because I'd rather have a set schedule than having to plan everything differently, and I personally don't like it.
Yep. I understand. Yep. A lot of people want to go to their high school football games on Friday night. They don't want their college team playing on a Friday night. A lot of people agree with you, sir.
And I just don't understand why all these conferences are trying to. I think it's really mind-blowing that the universities are even considering going against the NFL on a Sunday night.
I'm sorry, that the universities
I think it's
are
mind-blowing that some universities are thinking of going against the NFL on a Sunday night.
Well, yeah, it's probably well. Again, that was John Wilner's idea, one of his radical ideas. I don't know how serious the Pac-12 is looking at. Excuse me. I don't know how serious the Pac-12 is looking at that. So.
Well, I think they would just be losing more money if they did.
Now, again, I know, look, I get what you're saying. A lot of people agree with you. You know, a lot of people got used to the standard college football calendar. But I got to tell you, I love these other college football days. Me personally, because I'm a sicko, I watch college football, you know, I from everywhere. So if there's a Wednesday night game, I'm probably going to have it on. If there's a Thursday night game, I'm going to have it on. Friday night, we're going to be doing watch parties. And if they want to fill up some Sunday nights with college football, I'm going to be watching them. But I understand what you're saying. How do you go head to head with the NFL? John Wilner's idea was you put it on late. You go against an Eastern Midwest or Eastern NFL game that's on earlier. So at least the second half of your Pac-12 game, there will not be up against any NFL competition. That was part of John Wilner's idea.
I also love my Packers. So the Packers would beat out the Badgers if I had to choose.
All right, sir. Anything else?
No, that's all.
You got it, buddy. How the Milwaukee Brewers doing?
Well, I went to 2 games already. Well, after the Yankees torpedoed the Brewers on Saturday, they're 2-4 now.
All right, 2-4. That's better than the Twins.
Well, that's a Minnesota team for you.
Loserville City, and I'm the mayor. All right, sir. Appreciate the call.
All right. Thanks for taking my call.
You got it, buddy.
Bye.
Monopoly Friday are for Friday night lights. Ohio State, Michigan, Penn State have all posed Friday night matchups. Well, Gophers will play on a Friday night. How about them apples? Gophers are not afraid. The Golden Gophers are not. Bring them on, baby. Bring on that high school team from Columbus. Bring them to Minnesota. We'll play them Friday nights. Monopoly, the 4 West Coast teams should fill that Friday night slot more often than not. The NFL as a commissioner don't see this having the teeth to make a difference. Well, you know, there's just so much unknown, and we're on April 2nd. I mean, we're 3 months away from July 1st, right? Do I have my math correct? 90 days away from July 1st. Deloitte, we don't know if it's going to run tight. We don't know if it's going to run loose. The enforcement arm, we don't know how extensive that's going to be. And then what is the process is supposed to happen quickly, right? So if the enforcement arm, and we'll just call it doesn't have a name yet. According to ESPN, it doesn't have a name yet. Let's call it, for the sake of discussion today, let's call the enforcement arm the Flugarian Empire. The Flugarian Empire sees that Monopoly, Moen, has given a bag of cash in an Arby's bag to the backup kicker of the Buckeyes. The Flugarian Empire strikes down on Moen, reads him his charges. Moen is outside of the Ohio State family. He's his own collective. Moen gets condemned, and he can no longer have any relationship with any players, business deals with the Buckeyes. And guess what? The Ohio State Buckeyes lose 2 scholarships for 2 years. That's the penalty because of what Moen did, even though it was outside of Ohio State. Now, the question is, does Ohio State, what is their actions? If they appeal it, how fast is the appeal process? It's got to be quick. And then if the appeal process, when the Flugarian Empire enforcement arm says, no, the punishment stays in place. The Buckeyes lose 2 scholarship players, 2 scholarship slots for the next 2 years. Does Ohio State University, do they go to run towards their state attorney generals, or do they say, okay, we'll take the punishment? That's going to be the moment. That is going to be the moment. Whoever gets tagged first, the 5 first people, entities, university, coaches, the first 5 charges, the appeal process, are people actually going to take their punishment? Moen would never use an Arby's bag. Would use a 5 Guys bag or better. Okay, use that brown bag, all greasy. Okay, Moen, are you going to take your punishment? That is going to be the moment that we're going to know, does this thing going to work at all? Anyways, the phone lines are wide open. 763-260-1333. Again, the whole college football world is sitting on pins and needles. We have less idea of what college football is going to look like in July 1st, August 1st, September 1st, October 1st than we've ever had before. I mean, it's nerve-wracking for the coaches. You know, Georgia, let's just take Kirby Smart. Let's just take Georgia. Let's just take Georgia, for example.
Call from
Replica.
Can you hold for just one moment? I appreciate it. Let's just take Georgia. Let's do West Virginia. The Mountaineers, Rich Rod, Ren Baker. They've got themselves. They were able to. We're just pretending here. We're pretending, ladies and gentlemen. We're pretending. West Virginia Mountaineers. They were able to do what they needed to do to go to the maximum on the rev share, $20.5 million. And they're going to be sharing $13.5 million to the football program. Again, we're pretending. 13.5. Well, now they're going to do everything they can do to follow the rules, right? The money's being directly paid, right? $13.5 million. They're keeping an eye on that, right? Some player decides to retire in mid-season, whatever. He's not going to get that rev share money anymore for whatever reason, or a player does not have the grades and gets kicked out of school. And there's $300,000 sitting there left to be used. And they're going to make sure that they spend $300,000. They're not going to go over. They're going to follow the rules. All this is going to go up the chain into this enforcement arm. But then there is another school in the Big 12 that is caught cheating. Caught cheating. They went above. Direct payments from the athletic departments to the student athletes were above $20.5 million. Maybe it was only $1 million over, but they cheated. West Virginia is going to want that other school punished, right? I mean, if you're following the rules, that other school is trying to take advantage, trying to get a little bit more juice, a little bit larger margin of error, a larger margin, a larger MOE. You're gonna be like, whoa, nope. Punish that dude. Punish that athletic department. Punish that head coach. Punish that general manager. Right? No? We shall see. Replica, the floor is yours.
Greg, you know the answer to that question is no.
No?
Like, let's be honest. Yeah, let's be honest. Like, look at the history of college football.
Why do we have to cheat, though? Why do we have to cheat, Replica?
Is it cheating though? I want to ask some questions about this Deloitte clearinghouse before I get into my little rant. Is Deloitte is there a direct correlation? Is this a part of the House settlement? Like,
yes, it's part of the House settlement. The lawyers are going to be looking at it from the House side. That's why this isn't going to be easy just to ignore. Go ahead.
Correct? And this was created by the power conference, correct?
Correct.
Are they going to be regulating only the power conferences, or are they going to be regulating the conferences outside of?
The NIL is going to be all the conferences for NIL. But you remember, if here's the big difference. If the NCAA did not do the enforcement and people didn't follow them, okay, what's the penalty? The House lawyers, if you're not following this settlement, if we're not going to follow this settlement, if everyone's going to cheat and it all goes to hell in a handbasket and everyone thinks that's what's going to happen, well, guess what? The $2.8 billion back pay, that's out of that won't happen. It won't be $2.8 billion. It's going to be $15 billion. It's going to be $20 billion. So, again, there is going to be an incredible cost if people don't get their bleep together and at least try to attempt to follow the damn rules. Go ahead, Replica.
Okay. I understand that part, but I don't see how they're going to realistically be able to enforce it unless the Deloitte clearinghouse is strictly regulating the revenue share portion only. I don't think a third-party clearinghouse, which is by all accounts being incentivized most by the SEC, I don't know how they're gonna be able to regulate NIL payments, because if you're Ryan Smith at BYU and you really want Ryder Lyons, for example, the 5-star quarterback in the next cycle, who is Deloitte to put a value on what BYU perceives to be NIL?
Well,
because what's going to happen if the deal?
Go ahead.
They submit the, what's going to happen if a school submits a deal and it gets denied? And second, how can all these schools trust this clearinghouse to operate in good faith? Because really, all this is being created because the same 10 to 15 schools are inflating the market. Oregon, Ole Miss, South Carolina, LSU. It's the same handful. It's the same handful of schools who have inflated the market to this point. So how is this clearinghouse going to regulate them? Because if they're not being regulated, if they're able to circumvent the rules, then it's going to be hard for this clearinghouse to have legitimacy.
Okay.
If there's no trust in it.
Now, look. Everyone, Replica, you're saying what a lot of people are saying out there. No trust. There's zero trust. Painter, produce head coach, no trust. We don't know how this is going to work. We do not know what the metrics are for Deloitte to judge if it's a pay-to-play type of deal or if it's a true market value. We don't know anything. But we do know this. This Deloitte, this clearinghouse, part of it all is part of the settlement. Okay, number one. Number two, you're talking about BYU. You're talking about their big booster. If they have an NIL deal that's in place with a player after July 1st, does not have to do with deals that were made before July 1st. After July 1st, if Deloitte strikes down an NIL deal that's going on in Provo, Utah, and Mr. Smith gets upset and BYU gets upset, well, here's the deal, though. BYU signed on the dotted line for the settlement. So if BYU says that ain't cool with us, if Notre Dame says that's not cool with us, if Minnesota says, if every bunch of people are saying it and rally against it, again, the hammer is the lawyers of the House and the ruling that they've already won. The $2.8 billion in back pay. If you guys don't like all this stuff that's going on, well, guess what? Forget about the $2.8 billion. We'll get that sucker reversed like that, and then we're going to put a $15 billion back pay settlement on you. Because that's where this was going. That's why everybody had to get everybody corralled into this and sign off on it. So BYU, you signed off on it. Buckeyes, you signed off on it. Longhorns, Sankey and Petiti was rallying their schools to sign off on it because nobody wanted the 15. They don't want to pay the money. What?
They don't want to pay the money.
Yeah, they don't want to go $15 billion. See, they already lost. That's the thing that people got to. The Power Conference already lost this deal, and they were going to lose the other court cases. So they bundled it up together. People are trying to put guardrails around us. So guess what? Don't bloody cheat, or you're going to get hit with this enforcement arm that we don't know if it's going to be staffed by 2 people or 200 people. We have no idea. But what I'm saying is there is a larger penalty. There is the potentiality of a much larger penalty coming down if this thing collapses than the last 50 years when the NCAA didn't do anything.
Great.
Go ahead, Replica.
You sound like a very righteous man, and everything you're saying, it sounds great in principle. In principle, and the way life should go, you are 100% correct. But the two commissioners who are rallying all these schools to come to this agreement, their schools are the ones that are breaking the rules.
Okay.
And
look, I'm not saying this is going to work. I'm just saying, if it doesn't work, if this doesn't work, it's not going to be like, oh, we'll just bring all the bagman in, we'll just cheat, and nothing's going to happen to us. Oh, yeah, something's going to happen to you. Every athletic department, it's going to happen to you. You are going to have to figure out a way to probably go 10 or 20 times more of what you're going to be paying now in back pay versus what we're doing today. Like, there is going to be the big hammer is already set. And a bunch of, and if this all goes pear-shaped, that hammer is going down. And the SEC is the nail. Big Ten is the nail. The ACC is the nail. The Big 12 is the nail. The Power 4 conferences are the nail. And the House lawyers is the hammer. So if we don't play this right, if we just say like we've been saying, well, this doesn't really pertain to me. We're going to cheat, bring the bagman. Oh, they caught us? No big deal. We'll bring them to court. Well, okay, but the punishment is going to be that hammer, and it's already all set up just to come crashing down. That's how I see it.
I understand. It seems hard to believe that history of college football, and when we talk about collective bargaining, what should be the solution, even with that becomes problems, because how do you collectively bargain with a rotating group of players? It's not like you have in the NFL, you have players who are on the players union, and they're able to be in the league long enough to have a union. You're not really ever going to get that in college athletics. And then my other concern is if they're going to be regulating conferences outside the Power 4, why would those conferences ever listen to them? Because I understand everything you're saying, but if I'm Rick Pitino, I'm in my 70s, I got a school and a bunch of boosters who are behind me who want to win a national championship, I'm not really interested in playing on the same rules as the power conferences and honoring this clearinghouse, especially given the fact that all the G5 schools are being stuck with payments on this settlement that really they didn't reap the benefit of. The schools that reap the most benefit from the unpaid labor, they're sticking a lot of this payment on the rest of the other schools.
Yes, they are. And if this thing goes pear-shaped, they're going to be taking on a whole lot more payment. So
yeah, we'll see how it goes. But
all right, man. Yeah, we're all on pins and needles. Thank you, Replica. Appreciate it.
April 7th is the Thanos snap moment. We don't know what happens after this.
Yep.
Have a good one.
All right, man. Beautiful, Mr. Longhorn. I think people are taking a little bit rock and rant. I very rarely disagree with you more than I do on how you think these schools are going to get away with enforcement. I'm not quite sure what Rock and Rant is saying, that enforcement isn't going to be successful. Maybe it won't be. I'm not saying that it's going to be. I don't even know. We know nothing about the enforcement arm of this. We don't even know the name of it. We don't know how many people are going to be on the staff. We don't know, are they going to have enough people, enough money invested? One of the problems the NCAA has always had is they did not have enough people to investigate this stuff. That's one of the problems. But I have no idea how successful. Okay, we're back to collective bargaining. We do not live in a collective bargaining world right now. We just don't. So we have got this ruling from the courts. We've got this settlement. If the Power 4 conferences, these 10 conferences, do not effectively take action on what they're committed to on this settlement, then another hammer is going to come down on them. That's why everybody's on pins and needles. This isn't like This isn't like, well, you know what? If this doesn't work, nothing bad happens. If this doesn't work, if the House lawyers go back to Judge Wilkin and say, on a number of issues in the settlement, because this was a great victory by House and somewhat of a compromise. They took $2.8 billion in back pay, and then they got a whole bunch of stuff. If you don't give them the whole bunch of stuff, then that $2.8 billion is going to go to $15 billion or $20 billion. That's the problem. So it isn't a matter of, look, every Power 4 conference school signed on to the settlement deal. Until another court ruling overtakes this one, or if we get a collective bargaining agreement, or whatever, this is in place for the next 10 years. And I don't know if the enforcement's going to work. I do not know if a school gets caught, what are they going to do? That's why a lot of people are on pins and needles. Is it going to be more beneficial to cheat, just like it's been? Or is it going to be less beneficial? Because if you get caught, the punishment is going to be real and it's going to stick. I don't know. I have no idea. I've been saying I've had no idea for weeks and months. But collective bargaining is not, it's not the reality right now. So the reality is the settlement deal. The reality is there's going to be contracts between players and schools. And there's going to be a whole lot of buyouts in these contracts, just like with the coaches. You're not going to be able to keep these student athletes in. They're going to be moving around. They're going to be going in the portal. They're going to be moving to other schools. You can't stop that. But the buyouts in these contracts, somebody's going to take it to court. But just like at a coach, there's probably going to be a buyout involved. But if you are a school that goes above the salary cap, or if you are a collective that is paying players outside of approved submitted NIL deal, there's going to be something going on, supposedly, with the punishment side. Right? That's what the settlement is. That's the reality today. I want a CBA. Labor and ownership bargaining with each other, but that's not what we have today.
Call from
Tristan 5.
Tristan 5, the floor is yours.
Hey, thanks for taking my call, Greg. Listen, we're talking about a new enforcement, something to replace the NCAA. I don't know how this is going to work. I mean, unless you actually get some kind of action from Congress, right? It's
Yep.
like a national law or something. I don't see how that's supposed to work without that.
Well, you very well might be right. I mean, we've got a hearing on April 8th, the day after. I got it up on the screen where there is an April 8th, the future of college sports, talking about NLRB, student athletes, and the future of college sports. Then on April 9th, there's going to be a whole bunch of athletic directors and presidents on Capitol Hill. And that April 9th, the flooding of Capitol Hill with athletic directors and presidents, that's going to be a large part about NIL. They want some sort of guardrails on NIL. We'll see what happens. Is there going to be a carve out by Congress? Could there be support, legislative support to this? Or is it going to be ripped to shreds? I do not know. Great question, though.
Well, so here's the thought that I wanted to throw into the mix. We know that the recent agreement that the ACC hammered out with Clemson and FSU, it came on the heels of Florida State moving forward with their lawsuit. right? The judge denied their whatever. They said no, it's going to go forward. And if you remember, there previously had been the comment made at some point. The judge actually used the term sovereign immunity in the proceedings, and there was the thought process that that's where that was all going to head. And so what I'm thinking about now is, we're talking about state institutions here, and I don't know how you can. Maybe they can invent something, but how do you? It seems like you have to have an enforcement against the school itself, right? It can't just be the individuals, or maybe it can, but if it's going to be against the schools, you're going to have state legislatures signing off on these things.
Well, there's already a bunch of state laws in the books that says no matter what they're doing in college sports, our student athletes in this state, they're not going to be punished by any NIL, whatever. So there's already a bunch of state laws. Again, it's why these presidents and athletic directors are trying to get a federal statute, a federal law to supersede these state laws that make all this other stuff even have a chance of working.
Yeah, that makes sense. I'm just sort of thinking out loud here. It doesn't seem like it can work unless you have to have a federal law, and that at some point, you can have laws on the books that go after an individual that breaks a rule, but then there's this question, the NCAA used to have this term, lack of institutional control, and at some point, these state institutions, these universities, will be responsible at some point in the process. If there's an actual law that's being violated, they're going to have to be held responsible at some level at some point. And so I'm just I'm a little bit skeptical that can be worked out across the board. I mean, unless Congress comes up with a really strong law, I'm not sure how this whole thing's supposed to work.
Yep. Well, so, I think the idea is to have some sort of miracle happen, right? And have that support with a federal law. So
okay, well, I'm sure you're going to have a show on that day. I'm looking forward to seeing what they come up with.
Yep. Yeah.
All right.
All right, man.
Well, thanks for taking my call, Greg. I'll talk to you later.
Appreciate it.
All right, bye-bye.
Larry the GM, if Deloitte tells Manning that his endorsement deals are invalid, this is going to go to court in dying. Is Arch Manning, is he one of the student athletes that opt into the deal? Because if he's one of the players that opt into the deal and Texas opt into the settlement and it goes to a Deloitte and they deny one of his endorsement deals, then they deny one of his endorsement deals. Then if you want to go to the courts, that's fine. But again, see, I understand what people are saying here, and that's why this is why I put this last part in. It's the curse of this business, said Purdue's Babinski. He remains optimistic. You know what? I don't even have to do that. I don't have to go there. I hope that in about 3 years or in 2 years, I'm doing a show and we are celebrating the success of a CBA. The deal's been done. Representative of the student athletes and the conferences, whatever, deal's been done. I hope I'm doing a show of that 2 or 3 years from now. Then after that, I hope I'm not completely occupied by people saying, well, it's okay if my school cheats anyways. God, I hope we don't do that. I hope this collective night, because, when we're talking about, for example, the NBA. The NBA has an NBA, they have a hard, you know what, let's not do the NBA because they have about 3 different levels of their salary cap. Let's do the NFL. They have a salary cap, right? Collective bargain, which we don't have here. Completely understand. NFL, they have a salary cap. They do have rules in place. The NFL has rules in place. We don't talk about it, but they have rules in place. If a franchise pays a player under the table more than what their contract says, that franchise gets, boom, they get penalized big time. There's rules in place. And so there is not this never-ending world of cheating going on in the NFL, in the NBA, in the NHL. So if we ever get to a collective bargaining and where there's whatever they bargain with, right? And let's say there's a salary cap. Let's say the student athletes, the representation said, okay, a salary cap set for the ACC, this much money because the conference makes it, whatever the bargain is, and you've got rules in place, those rules better be followed. I mean, at some point, you got to follow the rules. At some point. Now, I get it. There's no collective bargaining agreement, Greg. So, therefore, no rules should ever be followed. I get it all. I get that all the time. Holy smokes. But there is some schools that follow the rules and some schools that don't. And somehow we've got it all twisted to say that the schools that follow the rules are the dummies. And the ones that break it, they're glorious. That's where we've come here in college sports. I just hope that we are celebrating a collective bargaining agreement where the people who are producing the labor, the ones who are risking their bodies and limb, they get a collective bargaining agreement. They get what they deserve, long-term health care and all that stuff. But after that's all done with, I hope I don't spend time talking about how, well, it doesn't matter. We can cheat. It don't matter. We can slip them another $200,000. Not a problem. We did something wrong, we're going to sue you. We're going to sue you and all that stuff. Hopefully that goes away. Rules have to be enforceable to be meaningful. All I can say is this. Sure, yep, CBA is the way. Absolutely. But I've signed contracts. I have signed contracts that I was legally committed to that wasn't collective bargained. So, again, right? People are using the CBA thing as like a get out of free card on everything, single thing people are doing out there. No, it's not. CBA, because there's not a CBA, there is not a, you can't run anything like, contracts have to mean something at some point. Again, ladies and gentlemen, the idea of a salary cap that is not negotiated with the players is illegal. And you know what? Most likely it's going to be. unless they get a carve out from the federal government. But does that mean that the Texas Longhorns should just break the rule that they signed on to it? Texas signed they were the ones. It's almost like because there's not a CBA, we're not going to follow any rules. We shouldn't follow. I mean, guys, again, this is what I'm afraid of. Even if you get the magic CBA, people are going to be wanting to cheat. And if you caught, so what? Because it is so ingrained into the college sports world. I love college sports. College football is my life, besides my wife and my God and my family. College football. But man, this cheating thing, like we're proud that we cheat. That is one part I do not like. And I've said that over and over and over again. It's almost like a badge of honor. We cheat, so therefore we just want it more. No, you cheat because you cheat. There is a lot of agreements out there, ladies and gentlemen, out there in the real world that is not under a collective bargaining agreement. And I'm saying this as somebody who wants a CBA. It doesn't mean that everything is illegal. Why would a top player, a lot of them don't, Larry the Jim. A lot of players going forward are not opting in. You have that option. You have that option when you go to the University of Texas. It's hard to prevent cheating, but when you get caught, you should be punished, right? It's all, I'm behind 20 minutes. There's no such thing as NIL. It's all pay for play. Everybody's paying for the best players that could afford. Okay? True, it has been. But now part of the settlement is that there has to be a Deloitte clearinghouse, and they've got to judge it on true market value. And of course, what is true market value? But it's part of the settlement. And the reason why the Georgia Bulldogs and the Texas Longhorns and everybody else signed on to this settlement is so they would not have to pay $15, $20, $25 billion in back pay. So it's not like everybody came running and jumping and saying, yay, we've got a great thing going on here. Let's do this Deloitte. Let's do this. They had a gun to their heads. You don't like this deal? Okay, $2.8 billion goes to $15 billion. Greg, a famous Minnesota once said, if you ain't cheating, you ain't trying. Jesse, the Body Ventura. All right, so we're going to wrap it up here. We've been on the air for an hour and 53 minutes. People are tired of listening to me talk. I don't blame them. Again, do I think the enforcement arm, we don't even know what it's going to look like. We don't know how many people are going to be involved. We don't know the powers. We don't know the appeal process. We know absolutely nothing about the enforcement arm. We know very little about Deloitte. But guys, gals, it's coming. It's not my fault. It's not my fault. The fat guy from Minnesota, it's not my fault. This is coming. This is what your school signed on to. It's almost like this is what you sign on to. This is what the players sign on to when they opt in. Oh, signing things don't matter, Greg. Nothing matters, Greg. If there's not a CBA, nothing matters. Yeah, it does. Yeah, it does, because the judge is about to make this real on April 7th. And if this totally collapses, that $2.8 billion back pay is going straight up. And there's a really good chance that a lot of schools are not going to be able to afford to pay the back pay. That's why the House lawyers were, and a few other ones that were folded into this settlement. A few other suits out there. There's a lot of give and take. There was a lot of compromise. And now for everybody to throw their arms up 5 days before the settlement becomes real and say, well, damn the torpedoes, baby. Bring on the bagmen. Well, good luck. And if you get caught, good luck. Good luck. Good luck to all of you. All right. This is going to be a very busy week, and next week is going to be dramatic. Holy smokes. We did not talk a lot of college football today. We have been. But today we only talked about this House settlement and college football possibly being played on Sunday nights into the future. If you missed our live show, if you just got here, go back to the start, watch it all. I want to thank everybody who joined us today. I do believe we got a donation. Ryan Willie, thank you. You are our only donation of the day. I appreciate your incredible generosity, Ryan Willie, helping us keep the lights on. Very much appreciate it. If you're new to the channel, or if you haven't done it yet, please subscribe and smash the like button if you've liked our content today. And until next time, from all of us at PATC to all of you, please you all take great care of each other. Thank you so very much.